The year was 2462, and the galaxy had seen its fair share of strange and terrifying creatures. From massive, hulking predators to telepathic beasts that could control minds, there was no shortage of danger out there. But there was one species that was talked about in hushed tones by all: the Zalthorans. At the Intergalactic Academy of Peace, students from all over the galaxy gathered to learn about the most dangerous species that roam the stars. It was a place of advanced learning, where future leaders from countless worlds came to study, discuss, and prepare for the unknown. Today's lesson was going to be something special. Professor Valon, a tall, blue-skinned Cathor with 6 eyes, stood at the front of the room, adjusting his robes. His species was known for their intelligence and cautious nature, and he had taught at the academy for more than a century. He had seen many species come and go, and had dealt with their fears, their misconceptions, and their excitement about Earth's dangerous creatures. But today he felt something was different. "Class, today we're going to watch the infamous Predator video," Professor Valon announced, his voice carrying authority. "The Zalthorans are a species that has hunted and killed across many worlds. Their abilities are unmatched, and even the strongest of species fear them." The students, sitting in rows of glowing seats, exchanged nervous glances. From the multi-limbed Grixkans to the telepathic Vithan, the students had heard about the Zalthorans. Most had even studied the statistics and the history of their terrifying conquests. The idea of watching a video about one of these beasts made their skin crawl. As the lights in the room dimmed, Professor Valon clicked a button on his desk, and the holographic screen flickered to life. The video began. A dark forest appeared on the screen, its thick trees covered in mist. The air seemed thick with the kind of tension that made everyone feel as if something was about to go horribly wrong. Then a shape moved, silent, fast, and deadly. It was the Zalthoran, its glowing eyes scanning the forest floor. The camera zoomed in to show its muscular frame and sharp, glistening claws. It moved with grace, an apex predator in its natural habitat. The students tensed as the creature stalked its prey, a terrified humanoid from a nearby planet. The camera showed the creature slowly closing in on its target. The humanoid could hear the Zalthoran's footsteps, but it couldn't see it. The silence was broken only by the rapid breathing of the prey. The predator pounced without warning, its claws tearing into the unfortunate being. The camera zoomed in on the gruesome scene, the screech of the victim echoing through the forest. The students gasped in horror. Some covered their eyes while others remained frozen, watching in fear. "This is why the Zalthorans are considered one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy," Professor Valon said, his voice somber. "Their strength, speed, and hunting skills make them nearly unbeatable." As the video continued showing more of the Zalthorans' hunt, the fear in the room grew. The creatures on the screen didn't seem to care about what they killed. To them, everything was prey. No one could escape them. And as the video reached its final moments, showing the Zalthoran disappearing into the trees with its kill, the tension in the room was at its peak. But just as the lights were about to come back on, a sound broke the silence, a loud, exaggerated yawn. The students all turned to look at the source of the noise. Maya, a human girl sitting at the back of the room, stretched her arms above her head and yawned again. Her posture was relaxed, as if she had just woken up from a nap. "You all right, Maya?" Professor Valon asked, his voice filled with concern. Maya didn't seem to hear him. Instead, she slowly leaned back in her chair, crossing her legs and looking bored. She turned her head toward the professor, then glanced around the room at the students who were still visibly shaken by the video. "Hey, my backyard's worse," she said with a lazy shrug. "I mean, that was pretty scary, I guess, but it's nothing compared to the stuff I dealt with back home." The entire class went silent. Every student, alien and human alike, stared at her in disbelief. Maya just yawned again, clearly uninterested in the conversation. "What do you mean, worse?" A Grixkan student whose sharp mandibles clicked in nervous anticipation asked, his voice trembling. "The Zalthorans are a living nightmare. I don't think anything could be worse than that." Maya rolled her eyes as though the question was silly. "Look, I grew up in the countryside on Earth. We had wild animals, huge ones. Bears, mountain lions, venomous snakes. And don't even get me started on the bugs. You think that Zalthoran was scary? I once had to chase a bear off with nothing but a rake." The Grixkan blinked, his antennae twitching with confusion. "A rake?" "Yeah," Maya replied, her tone as casual as if she were talking about what she had for breakfast. Bears love to wander into our yard sometimes, so I had to go out there and scare it off. The whole thing was more of an inconvenience than anything. The scariest thing I've had to deal with was probably a possessed garden gnome that tried to attack me once. The students looked at each other, clearly trying to process what Maya had just said. A few were still in shock. Others were trying to understand how a human could be so calm in the face of danger. Maya didn't seem worried at all. Professor Valon's mouth opened and closed as if searching for words. "The possessed gnome?" he finally asked, incredulity clear in his voice. "Yep," Maya said, clearly amused by the whole conversation. It wasn't even that big, but it was definitely creepy. It just kept staring at me with those glass eyes, and then it started moving. Had to destroy it with a shovel. The class erupted into nervous laughter. The Zalthoran predator, once the thing that had terrified them all, now seemed almost like an afterthought. Maya's offhand comments about her childhood had shifted the mood of the room entirely. The students, who had been so terrified moments ago, were now looking at her in disbelief. "Maya, do you always talk about these things so casually?" A Vithon student, his glowing eyes wide with fascination, asked. "Yeah, pretty much," Maya said, grinning. "I mean, I'm from Earth. We've got a pretty rough environment. We've got things like dangerous animals, floods, tornadoes, and even our weather can try to kill you sometimes. But you get used to it." Just another day. The room was still. The students had no words. They didn't understand how Maya could talk about surviving such dangers so nonchalantly. To them, those kinds of situations were things to be avoided at all costs. "But we thought humans were weak," one of the students said, his voice uncertain. Maya raised an eyebrow, looking almost insulted. "Weak? I wouldn't call us weak. Maybe we're not the biggest or the fastest, but we've survived everything this planet can throw at us. If we were weak, we wouldn't be here, right?" A few students nodded slowly. Some even seemed to gain a new respect for humanity. The humans, they realized, were not weak. They were survivors. Professor Valon, his composure now fully returning, looked at Maya with newfound respect. "Perhaps we have underestimated your species," he admitted, nodding thoughtfully. "Humans have a unique ability to face danger head-on." Maya grinned, clearly satisfied with the shift in the class's perspective. "Yeah, we're pretty good at that." The class ended with a new sense of curiosity about humanity. The Zalthoran video, once the center of the lesson, had become just another story in a larger tale of survival. Maya had changed the way they saw humans forever.